What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court. I am Sean Murphy, and today I got a controversial video for you. We are doing my top 5 players in the world list. That is right. I figured, you know what? It's that time in the off season. There's not really a whole lot going on. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the Ben Simmons situation already, and I kind of don't want to talk about that until we actually get some firm news as to what's happening there. So I decided, since we're just getting this journey started, what better way to get it started than doing my top 5 players in the world. Now, I want to preface it with, this is my opinion, okay? I'm basing this opinion as objectively as possible, okay? Now, you're not going to like my list. You're not going to like certain parts of it. And if you don't, that's okay. If you are one of those people, I want you to let me know in the comment section down below what you would change. What order would you put it in? What players am I missing? Now, I would like to give some honorable mentions before we start. Mainly to guys like Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard. Guys like that will not be on this list, unfortunately. Those are the 2 guys that are just outside. Of course, reigning MVP Nikola Jokic is also on the honorable mention. That's right. There are some guys on this list that are missing, but I think you will understand why. So, with that, I think it is about time we get started with my top 5 list. Number 5 on the greatest players in the world list, we have point guard for the Golden State Warriors, number 30, Steph Curry. The greatest shooter in the history of basketball, one of the greatest point guards in the history of the game. His ability to play make, his ability to get other teammates involved, but also his ability to score both on and off the ball is part of what makes him such a great player. I mean, Steph Curry, what is there to say about him that hasn't already been said? You know, coming off of injury, a really difficult season where the Golden State Warriors went from being a dynasty that looked like they were just going to keep competing and dominating each and every single year to losing Kevin Durant and getting into a situation where they were just no longer the same team. And so now we were looking at this team in Golden State and we were going, okay, well, what's going to happen here? I mean, especially with Klay Thompson, he's out with injury for what turned out to be 2 straight seasons. We have Steph Curry, who's coming off of an injury-riddled season. Can he still be that MVP level player? And the answer was a resounding yes. Stephen Curry went out and averaged crazy numbers this season, put up numbers averaging 32 points, 5.8 assists, and 5.5 rebounds on 48% shooting. 48% shooting. He got 32 points a game. Stephen Curry was looking like he was going to come in and steal the MVP race at the end of the season. And if they can get a healthy roster around him, if Klay Thompson can come back healthy, if Draymond Green can come back and play better this season, I think you're looking at a Golden State Warriors team that very much can still contend in the Western Conference. That is how good of a season Stephen Curry had. If I'm a Golden State Warriors fan, if he can play like that for years to come, I'm feeling pretty good about our chances. Number 4, I have the Claw, Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi Leonard simply just played outstanding this season. In the playoffs, people were wondering what was going on with this Clippers team. They were down 2-0 to the Mavericks, but Kawhi Leonard went to Dallas and single-handedly carried this team through this series and ultimately got them past Luka Doncic and the Mavericks. Kawhi Leonard's special, man. He went out, not only did he do his thing in the regular season, averaging 24.8 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 51.2% shooting. He's the most consistent player in the league, but also he took over when it mattered most. Unfortunately, his season was slowed down because he did get a partially torn ACL in the playoffs. But listen, there is few players that can dominate on the level that Kawhi Leonard can on the offensive and defensive end. The thing is that people are saying he wasn't the same defensive player, but the thing is that simply isn't true, because if you watch how Kawhi Leonard plays, he knows when to turn on the defensive clamps and he knows how to conserve his energy, and he's becoming much more of an offensive playmaker. Kawhi Leonard is very much stepping into that territory of being an all-time great wing in this league. And if he comes back healthy after this season, he is definitely going to keep his spot on the top 5 players in the world list. Now, it is important to note, the one thing that can slow down Kawhi Leonard and some of the guys that are still on this list is health. And that is definitely something that has been a factor with Kawhi Leonard throughout his career. But when Kawhi is healthy, when he is available on the court, he is one of 4 guys in the NBA that have proven that they can lead your team to a championship. And in fact, that is a factor of making him a top 4 player in the world. Number 3, and this is where my list is going to get controversial, so I need you to stick with me, okay? Number 3 is LeBron James. Now, hear me out. Hear me out, okay? LeBron James is most certainly one of the greatest players in the world. There is definitely an argument that he is still the best player in the world. But on my list, I have him at number 3. Now, let's start with the positives, okay? LeBron James is still looking like LeBron James at the age that he is at 36 years old. He averaged 25 points a game. He averaged 7 rebounds, 7 assists on 50% shooting. The guy is still LeBron James, and he is still playing dominant basketball. But we've seen the injury bug really get to LeBron James, and the thing about it is that he was clearly not the same player after suffering that injury. Now, he's still definitely number 3 in the world. I definitely still have him in the top 5 because we don't know how LeBron is going to look coming into this season. And for him, that is definitely going to be a big question mark, because if you watch LeBron James after that injury, he even said himself that he might not ever be the same player again. LeBron James is 36 years old. He has more mileage on him than any player in the league, or almost in the history of the league. And he's going to find himself in a situation where for the first time, we might not know what we're getting out of LeBron. And that might be part of the reason why they went and got Russell Westbrook to pair with him and Anthony Davis, is because of the fact that he isn't the same LeBron that he used to be. Now, LeBron has all the accolades, he has all the accomplishments, but he also suffered his first round loss in his career this past season. So there is clear signs of regression. There are clear question marks coming into this season, and therefore it is hard to put him as the best player in the world. So I think number 3 is still a really good spot. He's still on that Mount Rushmore of greatest players in the world after all of these years. But on my list, I have him stopping at number 3. At number 2 on my list, we have number 7 of the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant is one of my favorite players of all time. He is also one of the greatest players of all time. His ability to score the basketball, his ability to defend, his length, just how much of an anomaly he is on the basketball court. Kevin Durant is simply special. And the thing that was special about this past season is that when he was available on the court, he was playing like an MVP candidate. I mean, the fact that the guy came back from a torn Achilles, which is historically the hardest injury to come back from, and he was able to average 27 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists on 53% shooting, I will take that every single day of the week. And the thing is that he was almost able to even carry his team to an NBA Finals in his first season back. I mean, the guy just flat out was playing amazing. He put up 50-point performances in the playoffs. He was playing every single minute against the Milwaukee Bucks. And if he had some help on that team, there's no question that he would have gotten past Milwaukee. The thing is about Kevin Durant is that the things that he could do on a basketball court, just almost no one in the world can do. And I expect Kevin Durant to be number 1 on this list a year from now. I expect him to be able to go out and win an NBA championship with James Harden and with Kyrie Irving. But the thing is that right now, there is just one guy that tops him on this list, and we'll talk about him in a second. But listen, I know that with injury concerns, I just talked about it with LeBron, we have to acknowledge it with Kevin Durant as well. The guy only played 35 games last season out of 72. He was struggling still with his calf, and they really were trying to make sure and be cautious about his minutes because of his torn Achilles that he came off of. Kevin Durant, just because of the figure that he has, the body that he has, he is definitely injury prone, and there is a realistic chance that he could be missing time again this season at some point or another. But if I'm getting Kevin Durant every single night, or at least most nights out of the year, out of 82 games, if I'm getting Kevin Durant 72 of those games, I know I'm getting the best scorer in the world on my team. He's simply the best scorer in the history of basketball, and he might have had his best overall performance this past season. So if that's what Kevin Durant is like coming off a torn Achilles, imagine Kevin Durant after a healthy offseason where he also carried the United States basketball team to a gold medal. Kevin Durant is simply a monster. And number one on my list of greatest players in the world, it is none other than the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis had one of the greatest finals runs of all time, one of the greatest finals performances of all time, was able to take a team in the Milwaukee Bucks that it seemed like the media, it seemed like people in the NBA circle were saying, Giannis, why are you here? Why are you on this team? You can go to a bigger market, you can demand more money, you can get better endorsements, and you can simply probably win more championships. But Giannis said, no, I want to win in Milwaukee for the people in Milwaukee. And Giannis was able to do just that. Giannis put up 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists a game, shooting 57% from the field. And the thing is that Giannis is not only probably the physically toughest player in the league, he's probably the toughest mentally as well. People were counting down on his free throw attempts in the playoffs. He was getting taunted for his lack of ability to shoot, his lack of ability to shoot from the free throw line. There are genuine flaws in Giannis's game that you can point at, and you can make criticisms about Giannis. The problem is that what he does well, he does so well that those flaws don't even matter. Those shortcomings aren't even a factor at the end of the day. Giannis Antetokounmpo looked like he had a season-ending injury in Atlanta during the Eastern Conference Finals and was out there dunking like it was nothing 9 days later. The guy is a literal Iron Man. He's an absolute beast on the court. He's also has an amazing underrated ability to play make, his ability to galvanize the troops, work with his teammates, his ability on the defensive end, coupled with his offensive skills. There's probably no player in the history of the league that has a more impressive physical tool set than Giannis Antetokounmpo. Plus, the story of him growing up in the streets of Greece selling watches and other things to people, acting like as a street vendor, to now being one of the most dominant players in the history of the game, coming into the league as a virtual flyer first round pick, drafted at the 15th overall pick, a pick that we don't see many great players coming out of, and to now be perhaps the best player in the world. Giannis had to overcome a lot of odds, and listen, the guy is still young. He's only 26 years old? That's not fair. Like, if this guy stays healthy, he's on track to have one of the most dominant NBA careers that we've ever seen. And he's already won his first championship in Milwaukee. He's silenced all of the doubters that he can't win in the league. And now he's playing with house money. He's got nothing to lose. He delivered his championship to Milwaukee. Now he can play carefree basketball, which a carefree Giannis is probably the scariest thing I can picture in the NBA. And that, with many other reasons, is why Giannis is number one on my list, because the truth is Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player in the world until proven otherwise. He's a two-time MVP. He's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He won Most Improved Player of the Year. The guy's won so many awards. He's a Finals MVP. The guy is absolutely unstoppable, and he's the number one player in the world. Now, like I said, this is a really difficult list to make because you are leaving players off that list. There are guys like James Harden, Luka Doncic that come to mind. Jason Tatum comes to mind. Kyrie Irving comes to mind. Damian Lillard, Nikola Jokic, like I said. There are so many dominant players in this league that are just on the cusp of being on this list. But these 5 guys have shown the ability to be difference makers, have all been MVPs in their own right, and have all shown that they can carry their teams and help them win a championship. And to me, that is something that is a factor. At the end of the day, what you have done beforehand matters, but also who you are now matters. So how do you couple that together, and how do you formulate what makes the best player in the world? To me, I think my list shows that, is that from the very top, you have the guy that was the most dominant, that just won finals MVP. You have Kevin Durant, who's been dominant his whole career at the second spot. You have LeBron James, who's the second greatest player of all time, and to be 36 and still one of the greatest players in the world, that certainly earns him the spot on his list just from his accolades alone. And then you have guys like Kawhi Leonard and Steph Curry to round it out. To me, that is my top 5 greatest players in the world. But what do you think? Who are your top 5 players in the NBA today? Who are your top 5 greatest of all time? I would love to know in the comment section down below. But with that, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.